welcome to my channel. I'm Anne and today I'm going to be bringing you my November wrap up. November was a pretty, oh that's why it was cricket. So November was a mediocre month, I think. I didn't feel like I read a lot, which is very strange because I actually did. Didn't feel great. I was under a lot of stress, a lot of panicking that I am so behind on everything that I'm reading, and all my vlogs are just taking so much longer than I actually expected. But let's just go through my monthly statistics and we will talk through all the books that I read this month in a quick rapid fire way, because I honestly don't have a lot to say about a lot of the books that I read in the month of November. So across the month I read 21 books, 2 were physicals, 6 were ebooks, 13 audiobooks. Again, really listening to those audiobooks, trying to smash through a bunch of reading through audiobook listening. For the genres that I read 5 fantasy romance, 3 dark romance, 3 monster romance, 2 paranormal romance, 2 thrillers, 2 horror, 2 historical, and 1 fantasy. Lots of different types of genres. We were a little bit all over the place this month. For the age ranges, nothing too different here. We've got 19 adult, 2 young adult, 0 middle grade, very standard here. And then for my ratings, we have 5 5-stars, 13 4-stars, 2 3-stars, and 1 2-star with 0 1-stars, which is amazing. And then books acquired, 4 of them were books that I owned. I read 0 from the library this month. I read 3 ARCs, 3 from Kindle Unlimited, 3 from Audible, and 8 from Libby. So that is all the statistics. So let's get into all the books that I read. Let's pull up my spreadsheet. So the first book that I read in the month of November was Silver and Bone by Claudia Kane. This is the old book from Claudia Kane, so it has been just recently republished, but I already had this on my shelf, so I want to hold it up instead of adding a picture. But this is a story about our main character, Jennifer Jones. She is a 300-year-old vampire and she is a detective. She used to be a serial killer in her past, and now that she's a detective, her past is kind of coming back to bite her because someone is copying the murders that she has done many years ago. She is getting blamed for it. I love this book. It was 5 stars. It was so fun. Jennifer Jones is a great character to follow. She is very sassy, very doesn't give a fuck, doesn't care. She will do what she needs to do, and she is determined to prove that she is not a serial killer anymore, and she is actively trying to be a better person. We have werewolves in here, we have necromancers, we have wizards, warlocks. It's a fun time and I had a great time with it, so massive thank you to Claudia Kane for gifting me an e-arc, and I'm so excited to continue with this series, and I'm kind of glad that I have this old unpublished copy on my shelves now because it's going to be kind of rare, which is exciting. The next book that I read was Corrupt by Penelope Douglas. I gave this a 4-star read. So this is about our main character who has always kind of been obsessed with one of her best friend's brothers. He's a bit older. He is part of this group of 4 people who do all of these crazy things, and many years later the group have gotten out of prison and they're looking at getting revenge on our main character, even though she has no idea why. So this is sort of a dark romance. It is a bully romance, I would definitely say. They do a lot to her to really hurt her and get back at her for doing something to them. So the whole way through the story you're unsure of whether she actually did something or not, and we kind of go through the past and present timeline and watch their relationship kind of in the past timeline, watching the relationship develop and how things went about. And I had a good time with it. I was a bit worried about certain parts, but it was a fun time and I did enjoy it, and I think I will continue with the series, but we shall see. The next book that I read was Your Coffin or Mine by Jacqueline Hyde. This is a 5-star read for me. Absolutely loved it. This is the most fun times. In this one we're following our main character who is running away. She found her partner cheating, so she ran away and changed her flights to Romania, and she ends up in Dracula's castle. Dracula doesn't really want his castle to become a hotel, but his best friend has made him do it. So he is this dark curmudgeon-y sort of character, and she's very much the sunshine character, and he's automatically obsessed with her and really wants to be with her, and their banter is amazing. This is part of my Brie vlog, so it is upcoming, and I'll talk a lot more about that in that vlog, so make sure you check it out when it finally goes up. The next one that I read was Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. So this is a 4-star read for me, and I've heard so many amazing things about this. So this is a author of color, and in this one we're following our two main characters, Buddy and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they have gotten notified that their sons have been murdered, and they haven't really been spending time with their sons. So our main character's sons are married, and their fathers don't agree with them being gay, and when they find out that they are murdered, they decide that they are going to find the people who did it and make them pay, because they realize that they should have loved their sons either way. And this is a hard one to read. There was a lot of torture, there was a lot of murder, there was a lot of graphic scenes, but I did enjoy it. It spoke a lot about racism, about homophobia. It had a lot of words in there that made me uncomfortable, but that was the whole point. This book is meant to make you uncomfortable, and I do think it is something that everyone should read. I know it is quite triggering, but it is something that is really important because there is a lot of topics. One of our main characters is white and the other one is black, so we're watching them deal with prejudice that they have against one another, and then also against their beliefs of homophobia. And I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a good time. The next one that I read was That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Demon, or at a werewolf, and this is by Kimberly Lemming. So this is book 2 in the Boo Vale series, and in this one we're following our main character Brie, and she is being annoyed at the pub, and some guy keeps trying to get her to be with him, and she is refusing. She doesn't want to be with him, and she ends up accidentally throwing a love potion at a werewolf demon, and he is absolutely obsessed with her and in love with her, and she truly believes that it's just a love potion. So she's trying to figure out how to get rid of this love potion to actually see, but he is saying that they are fated mates. I had a great time with it, and I really enjoyed it. So it's just a fun time full of banter, so I definitely think it is something that you should check out if you're looking for a little bit more of a quick and easy read, and one that's full of banter. Next one that I read was A Fate of Wrath and Flame by K.A. Tucker. In this one we're following our main character Ramiria, and she is a gifted thief, and she is very good at what she does, and she gets entrapped in this scenario with another woman and gets sent to a different dimension where she is being put in the body of a princess who is the traitor, and she has to figure out how to save herself and get out of this situation, especially when she is falling in love with the king that she just betrayed, or the body that, yeah. So he believes that she betrayed him, but she's like, I didn't do this. This was like the evil one. I found this quite difficult to read at times. I found it to be quite slow going until we hit about the 250 page mark, but it is something that I did have a good time with as we went along. This is going to be in my Brie vlog, so make sure you check it out. I give a lot more in depth. This is a 4-star read for me. The next book that I read was Slay All the Way by Novocaine. This is an e-arc that I was gifted, and this is 4 stars. So in this one we're following Johnny, our favourite clown from A La Folie and Maison de Fou. So we're following him after Maison de Fou, when they have kind of split off from one another, and he becomes obsessed with this girl named Alaska, and he is ready and determined to make her his. And we just watch him as he stalks her and does some really weird stuff. So this is a dark erotic thriller. Dark erotic horror. I wouldn't call this a dark romance, but I'm very intrigued to see where this story goes. I really liked Alaska as a main character, and I really liked seeing the softer side of Johnny, which was really great. 4 stars, and I'm looking forward to continuing following these characters. The next one that I read was A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. This is about our main character, who is a lepidopterist. So she catches butterflies and sells them. So this is based in like 1800s Victorian era, and our main character is a very empowered female. She travels the world to catch butterflies and sells them, and she doesn't take any shit from anyone, and certain things start to happen where she ends up in the hands of a man who's trying to help her, and he takes her to London, where he ends up getting murdered after he has handed her off to one of his friends, saying, hey, can you take care of her, just make sure she's okay, I need to go home, sort some things out, and then I'll come pick her up. He ends up getting murdered, and then they are trying to figure out what happened. So Veronica and Thomas are trying, no, it's not Thomas. Veronica Speedwell and Stoker. Stoker is like, so they have to try and figure out what's going on and why she is in so much danger. I've been really enjoying my Victoria era style things where we've got these very empowered females who are not afraid to get their hands dirty and aren't afraid to tell men to shove it where the sun don't shine. I had a really good time with this, and yeah, I'm definitely going to continue with this series. This was a 4-star read for me, and it was a fun time. I just found it to be a little bit slow going at the beginning, and I think if I was reading it physically I would have a little bit of a better time with it. The next one that I read was A Broken Blade by Melissa Barr, I think is the name of the author. This is a 4-star read for me. This is a random one that I found on Audible that was for free, part of my membership, and I thought I'd give it a go. So in this one we're following our main character, who is the King's assassin, or the King's Blade, and she has been working for him for so long, and she has to kill anyone that gets on his wrong side. But there is another assassin or foe that she has not been able to defeat, and she's sent on a mission to defeat this foe because he is causing a lot of trouble. He's called the Shade, he's known as the Shadow, and she is on the hunt to find him, and she ends up on a journey of trying to figure out where her loyalties lie. I had a good time with this one. We are dealing with characters who have a lot of trauma. We're dealing with a lot of betrayal and learning how to trust one another, sort of enemies to lovers scenario, which is great. I did find it to be a little bit predictable, and a little bit convoluted towards the end, but I'm very intrigued to see where the rest of the series goes. I've heard that this is really popular on TikTok, so I just randomly picked it up and I did enjoy it while I read it. So although it is going to be one that I think I need to continue the series sooner rather than later, because it is a series that I think might be a little bit forgettable. There were certain points where I predicted what was going to happen, so we shall see. The next one that I read was House of Beating Wings by Olivia Waldenstein. I really enjoyed this. This is a 5-star read for me, and this is part of my Brie vlog. But in this one we're following our main character, who is a lower class within the system. So because she is half fae, half human, she is deemed unworthy. She has always been in love with the prince, and he is one of her friends, and she gets given a prophecy that tells her if she finds these 5 crows, she will become queen. So in her mind she believes that by becoming queen she will be marrying the princess she's in love with, and she's going to set on this journey to be with the one that she loves. And a lot of things happen. I loved it, and make sure you check out that vlog for my full thoughts. The next one that I read was Never Saw Me Coming by Vera Kurian. This was been on my shelves for a long time, and this is about our main character Chloe, and she is a psychopath. So she has been given a full ride to this university where she takes part in a psychology study that is helping psychopaths not become killers. So they believe that these psychopaths can be helped to regulate their emotions, or learn to have emotions to live a productive life in society. But Chloe is on a mission to get revenge on someone, so she is trying to get away with this crime without getting caught. So we watch her as she's skulking around, stalking this guy, finding out information. And then there's also a murderer on the loose who is killing a lot of these people within the program. So she's joined together with a couple of other guys trying to figure out what has happened and who the murderer is. I think this is a fun time, although I do find Chloe to be a very annoying main character. She's one of those, you know, oh my gosh, like, I'm a sorority girl and I'm like this, but I know it's all fake, but I just found it to be so grating the way she was acting, like this preppy, always happy, cheerleader type, you know, the stereotype, stereotypical cheerleader that you see in American movies. She felt like this. She didn't really have much depth, and I didn't like the way, like, she did not care. She wanted one person, she was going to get them no matter what. And my battery is dead, I'm pretty sure, so I need to charge. Same video, different day, because my camera died yesterday, and then by the time it charged it was bedtime. So I was in the middle of talking about Never Saw Me Coming. I don't really remember what I was talking about, but I know that I was saying that I found Chloe to be very annoying. I found her to be a very stereotypical American high school cheerleader type that you see in American movies, and I just didn't think that this was as thrilling as I thought it was going to be. She makes some not so great decisions, but I think that the author did a really good job of making these psychopaths seem like she wrote them really well, because psychopaths don't have feelings, they pretend to have feelings. So I thought that was very, very interesting. The next book that I read was Barbarian Lover by Ruby Dixon, and this was a 3-star read for me, I think. This was a 4-star read for me. So I really, really enjoyed this one. I think I like this a lot more than the others. I found our two characters to be a lot more interesting. So in this one we're following our main character, who is I can't remember her name. Katie? I can't remember. But she's the one who has the alien translator in her ear, and she finds out, she is hearing that the aliens are coming back, so she's determined to try and stop them from coming back. And she's also dealing with a alien man who wants to be with her even though they haven't resonated for each other, and we just watch them really explore their relationship and figure out what they want from one another. I really loved Ihako, I think that's how you pronounce it. I really, really liked him. He was very sweet, very, very caring towards Kira. Very sweet towards Kira, and kind of was like, look, we might not resonate to each other, but I choose you, I want to be with you. And I just found the romance to be really, really sweet. I had a great time with it. Next one that I read was Seducing Scylla by Lex Logan. This is a debut author, and I had a really good time with this one. So in this one we're following our main character, who ends up getting kidnapped and ends up on a mythical island, and she comes across Scylla, and turns out that they are fated mates. So we're watching them learn how to speak to one another and how to learn each other's culture and customs, and watching them fall in love, which I really, really loved. It was sapphic, which is also really exciting to see, because I haven't really read a sapphic Greek mythology retelling, so that was really, really interesting. And I think this is my first tentacle smut, so that was very interesting. The next one that I read was Wretched by Emily McIntyre, and this is the Wizard of Oz inspiration, the fairy tale that was inspired the fairy tale that inspired this story was The Wizard of Oz. So in this one we're following our main character, who is working for her father, and she is the, hold on, let me read the synopsis so I make sure I'm not spoiling anything, because I don't want to spoil stuff, just in case. So in this one we're following Evelina, and she's always been the bad person. She's the brains, the brawn, and the botanist behind her family's drug empire. So she is doing pretty much everything, and she does her dad's dirty work, and she is also trying to seek revenge for her sister's murder. Her sister was killed and she believes that it was murder, so she's trying to figure out that while also being the botanist and creating the flying monkey drug that everyone is loving and making sure that the criminals aren't ripping them off. And then we're also following Nicholas Woodsworth. He is a DEA agent pretty much, and he is trying to get to the crux of who this person is making this drug and bringing down the family. And he has to get close to the family by pretending to be a diamond thief, and we watch their relationship grow. So I love this one so much. This is a 5-star read for me. I loved it. It was so dark. I really loved the mafia vibes. It was really good, and I loved that they both had a one night stand, so immediately they knew who each other was. But she's like, he's lying to me about something and I don't know what he's lying to me about. Did he lie to me when we hooked up? Is he lying to me now about what his name is? And he is just so intrigued by her, even though he knows that he shouldn't be, because they shouldn't be together. He's a DEA agent and he's trying to take down her family, and he's trying to figure out what her involvement is within this family and hoping that he can save her. And I just loved the banter between them. They are very push and pull towards one another, and then it ends up in like these heated scenes full of hate, and I just loved it. It was great, and I had a great time with it. Next one that I read was Barbarian Mine by Ruby Dixon. As you can see, I'm making my way through these Ice Planet Barbarians books. They're just really fun, quick audiobooks. This is another 4-star read for me. So in this one, we're following a character that we met. Obviously, we've seen all these characters before, but she was very prominent within book 3. And she ends up getting she is in the process of helping the aliens, and something happens where she disappears and everyone thinks she's dead. Turns out that there is a wandering alien who is very scared of the tribe that they are involved with, and realizes that he needs to take her because he's resonating to her, but he doesn't understand why. I really like this one. It's very different from the others because he doesn't understand why they have this connection. He doesn't speak the alien language that everyone else speaks to, so even if she gets the translation, she can't, so they have to work together to try and figure out how to talk to one another. And I just had a good time with it. I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of important themes explored in here, like abandonment and trauma, which I really enjoyed. The next one that I read was Mayfly by CJ Leede, and this is a weird book. I gave this 4 stars, and it's one of those books where I think I'm going to have to reread it to fully understand what happened within the story, because it is a dark, erotic horror where we're following our main character who plays a princess at a theme park, but she is also someone who enjoys blood and wants to kill people. And being in her head was crazy. Being in Maeve's head was crazy. I've heard so many great things about this, and it's also like my reading experience of Bunny. I also gave this 4 stars, but still no real idea as to what happened within this one. It's very weird. It's very, you have to suspend your disbelief. You have to really pay attention, and I think because I listened to this on audio, I was missing quite a few things. So I think that if I was going to reread it, I would have to read it physically or read it on ebook, just so I can get the nuances within the story, because there is a lot happening. It moves very fast paced, but it is a 4-star read. I do think critically it is a good story. I think I just wasn't in the right mindset to read this one. It is very strange. It's very gruesome. There's a lot of scenes that I was like, ugh, while listening to, but it was very interesting, and that ending got me shooketh. I was not expecting that ending, but I would be very intrigued to see what else CJ Leede writes. The next one that I read was Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. This is a dark romance, and I gave this a 4-star read. So in this one, we're following our main character who ends up getting kidnapped. and she ends up getting kidnapped with her future brother-in-law, who she hates. These two have had this rivals scenario where they do pranks on each other, they just take the piss out of each other constantly, and she ends up getting kidnapped by this serial killer with her future brother-in-law. And the thing with the serial killer is he's called the matchmaker. So his goal is to make these people fall in love and then kill them. And watch, like, torture them and make them watch each other get tortured and killed. And so in part 1, we're watching them be within this captivity, and then in part 2, we're watching them heal. There's so much triggers in this, so please be aware. Read your triggers before you go into this one. This is very, very dark. I'm surprised that there is triggering content. There is SA that is implied. It's not on page, but it is definitely, you know what's happening. And it's kind of fade to black of those scenes, which I think was the better route to go, because this story was so dark. And we were in the heads of these people for so long, with them trying to deal with the trauma and also support one another while in this experience, and just watching them. There is certain parts where I wanted to shake the main character, because you could tell that she's been in love with him this whole time and she's just refusing it, and you could really see their chemistry. Even though that they hated each other, you could really see that they did care for one another. And then obviously there's this messy scenario of when they come out of this captivity and he has to go back to his life of being engaged to her sister after all of the crazy stuff that they've been through. So they have this trauma bond where they really connect with one another and really only feel safe with one another because they were each other's safe place within that captivity. So I found it really, really interesting, and I do think that this is one that I will reread. I don't think it was a favorite. Maybe it is, because I keep thinking about it, you know. Maybe it is a 5-star read. I will sit on that and maybe change my rating. But yeah, it was a very rough read, but it is definitely one that I think is important because it highlights recovery and surviving trauma and opening up and communication, and it just highlights so many important things, especially for those who've gone through something like that, which I think is great. The next one that I read was Shadows, Dark and Deadly by Andy Marie, and I love this one. This is a 5-star read for me. So I found this author on threads randomly asking for people to read her book, and she was giving away the book to people if they really wanted to read it and if they wanted to review it. I said yes please, this sounds like the perfect thing for me, and I'm so glad I did. 5-star read, absolutely loved it. So this is set in a Victorian London-esque vibe, where we're following a main character who has this deadly power that she doesn't really understand. And on a night when she is almost freezing to death, she ends up getting attacked and kills a man. And there is a man who saw that and has decided that he wants to take her on as his, he wants to train her as an assassin. Turns out that these two have a past, and the chemistry between them is amazing. I love her, and I just love these two characters. It was so amazing. There is like LGBTQIA plus representation throughout this whole story, and I loved it because our female main character, Carrie, I can't remember how to pronounce her name, but she is bisexual, so she has female and male lovers, and I just really, really loved it. The humor in here is great. I loved how they had to have this fake marriage to get away with her living with him because of society. I love the shadow magic. It is very interesting, and I'm so intrigued to see where this series goes. And we did also get some sapphic spicy scenes, which I really, really enjoyed. The next one that I read was The Vermilion Ribbon by Hayley Price, and this is a author that I am working with as a personal assistant, so I am reading her books to kind of get myself familiar so I can help her promote them. But in this one we're following our main character, who is a garment maker, and she ends up in a relationship with someone who has a very sordid past and is an assassin. So as time goes within this relationship, she ends up deciding that she is going to become an assassin too, to kind of keep her lover safe. And Corel then becomes this bloodthirsty, cold-hearted killer, and things happen, and she now has to go on the run and has come across a new lover, and we're just watching her story unfold as she's on the run, trying to hide from her past and also explore this new relationship with someone that was also a past lover of her ex-lover. I enjoyed this. It was very atmospheric. It was very interesting to watch Corel move from a simple garment maker who had never been with a woman to a cold-hearted assassin, and how she kind of went about that, and the why she took that path. I found it very, very interesting, and I did enjoy it. And yeah, this is a 4-star read for me, and I'm definitely going to be continuing the series. And I read this on Kindle Unlimited, so I'm very intrigued to see how this goes. This is Hayley's first book, but she has published 2 more, and I've heard that the writing and everything just gets so much better as we continue with this series, so I'm very, very excited. The next one that I read was Let Me Lie by Claire McIntosh. So in this one, we're following our main character, Anna. Yes, so in this one we're following our main character, Anna, and both her parents have committed suicide, but Anna believes that this is not suicide. So 1 year ago, Caroline Johnson chose to end her life brutally, a shocking suicide plan to match that of her husband just months before. The daughter, Anna, has struggled to come to terms with her loss ever since. Now with a baby of her own, Anna misses her mother more than ever and starts to question her parents' deaths. By digging up their past, she'll put her future in danger. Sometimes it's safer to let things lie. So we're following our main character, and she is really struggling with the death of her parents, and she doesn't believe that her parents would commit suicide because they were happy, and they were in a happy marriage, and they weren't depressed. So she is really struggling to come to terms with them committing suicide, and then she ends up, certain things happen within this that make her believe that it's not suicide, and she starts to investigate. There's a lot of reveals. This is a more slow-going mystery. I wouldn't say that this is a thriller. There is some thriller aspects within this, but I would say it's more mystery than it is a thriller. I did enjoy this. I think this would be a 3-star read for me. Some of the reveals I didn't see coming, but then others I kind of saw coming. I liked watching Anna come to terms with maybe that her parents' relationship wasn't as perfect as she thought, and she just kind of buried her head in the sand and pretended it wasn't happening. But yeah, it was fine. I liked seeing Anna really struggle with her grief and the anger that she feels when she starts to understand what's going on. And yeah, it kind of does leave you guessing as to who it is. The last sort of reveal, I was expecting someone else to step into the room when it was someone else, so that was quite interesting. And yeah, 3-star read for me. And the last book that I read for the month of November was Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. And this is a YA fantasy, and we're following our main character, Nyx, who has since birth been pretty much promised to a immortal Ignifex, and her whole goal of this is she's going to marry him, she's going to seduce him, and she's going to kill him. But it doesn't go as to plan. I didn't really like this one. I gave this 2 stars, unfortunately. I found it to be very boring. I didn't find it to be compelling. I didn't understand what was happening. And yeah, there was just a lot of convoluted things that was happening. And I think this is part of a series, and I just don't see how or why it needs to be a series. Maybe it's not, I don't know. But anyway, I didn't really like this. I didn't like our main character, Nyx. She has a lot of hate in her heart, and she hates her parents, hates her sister because her sister wasn't the one who was chosen, she was, and so much and so forth. This kind of also deals with bargains, so I was interested in that because our immortal Ignifex deals with bargains. So when you bargain for something, he will give you what you want, but there will be a major consequence. So for example, if he takes a sickness away from someone, you will end up getting the sickness and dying, that sort of thing. And yeah, I don't know, I just didn't feel like this. I found that one of the characters changed so much that you didn't really see it at all. At the beginning, she's very meek, and then all of a sudden she's like this crazed person who's out to get revenge and hates her sister. And there was a whole lot of things that I just wasn't really expecting or wanting. So yeah, 2-star read for me. So that is the 21 books that I read in the month of November. Excuse the costume change, as you would say, and the actual thing, my camera dying, that wasn't expected. But make sure to like this video if you liked it, comment down below what your favorite book of November was, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. Bye.